So, Rachel, you've been practicing coach. You work a lot around transformation and all of that. And tell me a little bit about your journey. How did you really start your
Thanks. Great question. Really, my career started with me having a desire to honor my creative self expression. I originally thought I would be on the stage. And when I was 18, I went to the American Academy of Dramatic Arts, which is a pretty well known acting school.
Hmm.
And after my first year at the school, I received a form letter saying, "Oh, you really should pursue other careers, and we're not accepting you in your second year in the second year program."
Okay.
Which was really, now that I have a lot more wisdom, I see that there were a lot of flaws in their process. But in terms of the impact on me, being 18 at that time, I thought, wow, I must really suck at this.
Hmm.
And I didn't realize at the time that I was a perfectionist.
Hmm.
And I said, well, if I can't do this, because clearly I'm terrible at this, then I'm going to turn my back on my creativity and
Hmm.
I'm going to pursue a path much more commonly taken. And that's when I started in college and my master's program and getting into human resources. And anytime that I would attempt to sing,
Hmm.
literally my arms would be numb,
Hmm.
glued at my side. And so I was actually a human resources manager at EMI Music Distribution that had 10 record labels, and no one had a clue that I
Okay.
sang. And all of that changed on my way to facilitate a work life balance workshop one morning, and my life was not so unbalanced. And I was unfortunately in a car accident. And thankfully, it wasn't too serious, although I did miss my speaking engagement. But while in physical therapy, I saw a flyer for a workshop called Joy of Singing. And
Hmm.
that is really what I had desired all my life. How do I experience joy when I'm singing? Because that's really originally what drew me to
Right.
singing, was being able to express my emotions.
Hmm.
And that workshop, which I took, really started to change my life and had me realize that I was indeed a recovering perfectionist. And I started to sing again. And also, it prompted me to write an autobiographical self help book
Oh
called
wow.
Stepping Into More, Lessons from a Recovering Perfectionist, and also to produce a CD of songs that most of which I reference in
Hmm.
the book. So that's a bit about my journey.
Hmm.
I'll pause and see what thoughts or questions you have.
No, interesting story. I think sometimes experiences of our childhood can, or our early adulthood can really shape us who we become. However, I think you were still on the go to find out for yourself what is it that you would still do and can get into singing or not. So interesting. And then I think you chose the career of being an HR professional, right?
Initially,
And then coaching. How did coaching come about?
yeah, so while in human resources, I very quickly realized, as much of a necessary function as that is,
Hmm.
that I was not passionate about the administrative side of it.
Hmm.
And so very quickly, I started delegating the things that I wasn't as passionate about. And I basically started coaching before coaching was invented. So I was doing assessment debriefs, team buildings, all different types of training. And when I left EMI, I went to a company called Easton Sports, and I became a manager of training and organizational development. And it was a brand new role. I'd never been created before. And that provided me a wonderful opportunity to create a corporate university.
Hmm.
And when I felt I had gone as far as I could go at Easton, I went to Transamerica, and I
Hmm.
literally was there one day. And after my orientation, there was an announcement, a human resources emergency meeting announcing that there was a reorg that was happening. And I had the option of staying or re interviewing for a new job or leaving. And it was such a blessing, Haris, because at that point I was almost done with my master's program and I was writing my thesis. And I decided, I stayed at Transamerica for 3 months and I lined up work. And actually, Easton had never
Hmm.
rehired my position. So my hunch that I had gone as far as I could go was correct.
Hmm.
They hired me as a consultant. I lined
Hmm.
up additional work and got my master's degree, and I was entitled to a package by not staying at the company. And that's what helped me launch my business over 20 years ago.
Hmm. Okay. And the business was into then coaching.
Actually, initially, there was a lot of training and facilitation.
Huh?
And about 5 years in, I felt like something was missing.
Yeah.
And as I reflected on that, I realized this one on one component
Mm-hmm.
and the intimacy and the impact of having that kind of relationship
Mm-hmm.
was missing for me. And by then, coaching had been invented. And
Hmm.
that's when I started on my coaching certification journey. And over the years, it's been over 20 years I've had my own practice now. I am primarily coaching and doing a little bit of facilitation and
Hmm.
speaking, but my real joy is in coaching.
And what brings you the real joy in coaching when you say that's your real joy?
Thank you. What a wonderful question. I truly enjoy being a trusted advisor, although I don't like to use the word advisor and coaching together.
Yeah.
But really, that comfort and the safety that I'm building that allows people to really express all of
Hmm.
who they are and to reconnect to all of who they are so that
Hmm.
they can make conscious choices and to
Hmm.
feel empowered as a human being
Hmm.
is incredibly wonderful and so rewarding for me to be a part
Hmm.
of that journey with others.
So tell me a little bit more about your practice as a coach. I know you practice as positive psychology and you've got your GPS framework and multiple things. So walk us through uh, the positive intelligence first.
Sure. So, positive intelligence is an incredible framework that was created by Shirzad Chamine, who was a professor at Stanford. And he conducted factor analysis to create this framework, which is incredibly simple and impactful.
Hmm.
And basically, this framework has three pillars. The first pillar is that all of us as humans have a judge, and we also have what are known as accomplice saboteurs. And the judge judges three things. The judge judges our self, that's the one that's beating ourselves up all the time. The judge also judges others.
Hmm.
And the judge judges circumstances or situations. And what I mean by that is that's that voice that we hear when we tell ourselves, you can't be happy until you get X, whatever
Hmm.
X is, whether it's the degree, the relationship, the house, whatever the thing is. And then we get X.
Hmm.
And we might celebrate for 5 minutes. And then
Right.
that voice comes back. Oh no, you can't be happy until you get the next
Uh,
thing. And it's a never ending quest. So that's our judge.
okay.
And then we have these accomplished saboteurs, which are
Hmm.
basically strengths overdone or misapplied.
Hmm.
So, just to give you an example of that, one of the saboteurs, one of my favorites, is the hyperachiever.
Hmm.
And when I'm on the strength side of this, or what this framework would call being in my sage,
Hmm.
things flow easily for me. I'm able to manage multiple projects, to work on different things with ease.
Hmm.
But the minute I start hearing a voice in my head or a feeling in my body that's clenched and says, Rachel, you're only as good as your last accomplishment. You better keep achieving or you are worthless as a human being.
Hmm.
That's that's my saboteur. And when our judge and saboteur are activated when we're emotionally triggered, they lie to us all the
Hmm.
time. And each saboteur has a unique flavor to its lie,
Hmm.
but it is lying. And because we're so used to having a negativity bias, and we start to believe that lie, and we start to let our judge and saboteurs be in the driver's seat, which makes it very difficult then for us to access our sage.
Hmm.
And our sage is really who we are at our core. And our sage knows how to experience compassion, innovation, creativity. It knows what matters to us, and it knows how to have laser focus.
Hmm.
So, really, this framework is all about how do we not get rid of our judge and saboteurs because they're part of the human condition. And by the way, they were created and pretty well formed by the time we were 5 years old. So these
Okay.
were our best strategies
Mm.
when we were young, but they're not serving us now. So, how do we quiet that part of our brain from a neuroscience perspective? And
Mm.
how do we build muscle so that we can better access our sage? And
Mm.
that leads us to the third pillar of this framework, which is how do we build what's called our self command muscle so that when our judge and saboteurs are coming up, we
Mm.
have the wherewithal to be able to get to a more neutral place so we can access our sage. And
Mm.
those are through mindfulness sensory activities that are known as positive quotient reps or PQ reps.
Mm.
And the reason we focus on sense, whether it's hearing, touch, smell, is because our body is really the only part of us that's present. Our head is either thinking behind or it's looking to the future. It is not present. And
Mm.
our body is often giving us many clues and cues as to what's truly going on, but our head and our judge and saboteurs overrides that
Mm.
until we're in pain. So part of this framework is learning these sensory activities and proactively doing them so that when we are triggered, we have the wherewithal actually to practice them real time so that we can make more conscious choices in the moment. So I know I shared
Mm.
a bunch there, so I'll pause once again for you.
So PQ reps, you're saying, is the way to kind of build the muscle and access sage. And what is a sensory based exercise that you do?
Yeah, so if you're open to it, Haris, I would be delighted to guide you through a few PQ reps. Are you open?
Sure. Yes, I am. Go ahead.
Terrific. And like I said, these are sensory in nature. Normally, when I'm doing PQ reps, I will focus on one or two senses. But to give you an experience of this, I'm going to give you sort of a buffet, if you would, of a different sensory activities
Mm-hmm.
so that you and your listeners can get an experience for this as well. So if you're able to, I'll invite you to close your eyes and
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to do the same. And I also will invite you to put your two hands near your belly button.
Mm-hmm.
And as you're breathing, just to notice how when you inhale,
Mm-hmm.
your belly button expands, almost like a balloon.
Mm-hmm.
And as you exhale, and you can exhale through the mouth the first time, notice how that balloon deflates a little bit.
Right. Yeah.
And go ahead just a couple more times on your own. Inhale, and this time we'll exhale through the nose. So once again,
Mm-hmm.
feeling that expansion. And as we exhale, just feeling how that slight deflating.
Mm-hmm.
Nothing to do or to control, just observing what's naturally happening. And as you continue to breathe at your own natural rhythm, I invite you to take two fingertips and to rub them together with such attention that you could feel the ridges of each fingertip. Keep breathing. And as thoughts come up, and they will, with
Mm-hmm.
compassion, bring yourself back to the sensation of touch, perhaps noticing different texture, temperature. Great. And now I invite you to take your index finger and to place it under your nose. And as you inhale, notice the
Mm-hmm.
temperature of the air coming in through your nostrils.
Okay.
And as you exhale, notice the temperature there. There
Okay.
might be a shift. Perhaps the air is a little bit warmer on your exhale.
Right.
So just do that a couple more times on your own. Terrific. And now we'll focus on the sense of hearing. And as you continue to breathe,
Mm-hmm.
notice the farthest away sound that you can hear.
Or this the way sound you said.
Mm-hmm. And now, as you continue to breathe, notice the closest sound that you can hear. If you haven't already noticed the sound of your breath, go ahead and do so now. Great. So take a couple more rounds of breath, noticing the points of connection of your body, either to the seat or to the ground, feeling a sense of connection, presence, and ease. Feel free to stretch a little bit. And when you are ready, you can open your eyes. Fantastic. How was that for you, Horace?
Good. Good. More, I think, mindfulness. Yeah.
Yes. So thank you for calling that out. And this is a form of mindfulness, and
Mm-hmm.
it is very distinct from sort of typical meditation. And I too am an avid meditator. And when we meditate, we tend to set up pristine conditions for ourselves. So
Right.
maybe it's a light or a candle or music, whatever your thing is. And that's all well and good and lovely. And then what happens in the moment when you get triggered? We can't recreate all of those conditions.
Right.
So, one of the powerful things about PQ reps is that we can do this real time. So, if you and I were interacting and I'm noticing that I'm getting triggered,
Hmm.
I might start rubbing my fingers together.
Hmm.
I might start to take some full breath
Hmm.
and focus on the sense of breathing. I might even do PQ reps on you. I might start to get really curious and do visual PQ reps. Oh, I never noticed the color of his eyes before
Hmm.
or his glasses.
Hmm.
And what that does is it helps real time to get us to that more neutral place.
Hmm.
And the thing here too, Horace, is it's recommended that we do at least 15 minutes proactively of PQ reps a day, especially in the beginning as we're building this habit, so that we have enough charge in our self command muscle to
Mm-hmm.
have the wherewithal to even know, wow, I am being triggered right now, real
Hmm.
time. Let me start doing some PQ reps. Because if I haven't charged up my sage brain ahead of time, I might go down that rabbit hole of listening to my judge and saboteurs. And it's one of those open mouth, insert foot moments
Hmm.
that I would rather not have. So there are
And
some distinctions.
hmm. And tell me, how do we make sure that we're building our muscles around accessing these sage?
Yeah, so as I mentioned, ideally, we'd like to set up a practice for ourselves of at least 15 minutes a day. And for myself personally, what that looks like is first of all, the morning is the most important time.
Mm-hmm.
You know how quickly, the news of the day, we're most stressed when we wake up. Immediately our brain kicks in, right? Like, oh, I have all these things to do.
Right.
So ideally, I do not look at my social media. I do not look at my emails until I have done my mindfulness in the morning, which includes, I am a singer, so I do chant, and then I set my timer for 6 minutes and I do PQ reps.
Okay.
So that's how I start my day. And then usually around midday, I'll set my timer for another 2 to 5 minutes. And by the way, as little as 10 seconds on an
Mm-hmm.
MRI of someone doing PQ reps
Mm-hmm.
showed a weakening of the judge and saboteur part of our brain, primarily in the amygdala, and a strengthening of our prefrontal cortex, which is where our sage lives. So it doesn't have to be a lot of time. So in the
Mm-hmm.
afternoon, I'll set my timer once again. And then sometimes before my evening starts, I will
Hmm.
also set my timer. And by the way, these are so accessible. You don't even need to sit to do this. So just as an example, if I'm walking and I am blessed to live across the street from the beach. So
Hmm.
oftentimes after work, I will go to the beach. And as I'm walking, if I feel the wind, the air on my face, and I'm
Hmm.
really paying attention to the tingling of my fingers, that's a PQ rep.
Hmm.
If I'm washing my hands and I'm feeling the warmth of the water and the lather, that's a PQ rep. So there's many different ways to do PQ reps that are very accessible to us.
Does it mean any positive experience can be translated or converted into a PQ rep?
Any positive experience?
Mm-hmm.
That is a terrific question, because this really begs the question, this framework begs the question. First of all, do we need quote unquote negative feelings?
Hmm.
And the answer is yes, as an
Hmm.
alert system. So, for
Right.
example, if I had my hand on a hot stove, I would want to experience pain so that
Right.
hopefully I would take my hand off the stove. But
Right.
as humans, what we tend to do is we ruminate on
Hmm.
our negative thoughts and feelings, the judge and the saboteur,
Hmm.
and we are not then able to move to our sage.
Hmm.
And to your question, what's known as the sage perspective is that in any situation or circumstance, there
Hmm.
is a gift. There is a learning. There is an opportunity. Even in the worst of situations where
Hmm.
initially we might have thought, oh, why is this happening? This is the worst thing ever in my life. And I don't know about you, but in those situations that I've experienced in my life, the minute I ask myself the question without knowing anything about the sage yet,
Mm.
what can I learn from this? What am
Mm.
I supposed to be taking from this? That is the
Right.
sage perspective. And the minute I ask myself that question and my clients ask themselves that question, that's where our healing and our growth really begin.
So that's really like being mindful and pausing and reflecting, to access this.
Absolutely. And to your point, as you know, most of our thoughts and feelings are negative for
Mm.
survival purposes, and most of them are subconscious. So we're
Mm.
not even aware that we're having them. So our feelings lead to our thoughts, which lead to our choices. And if
Right.
most of those feelings and thoughts are negative and subconscious, then we're on autopilot. So
Mm.
the whole idea here is how do we bring those feelings and thoughts to the surface so that I can have a choice and
Mm.
I can access my sage so
Mm.
that I can really experience greater joy and fulfillment in my life.
Right, right. Oh, that's beautiful. That's amazing. Thank you. And talk to me a little bit more about you said that a while ago about purpose and passion as well, right? I mean, we spoke about that offline too. Talk to me a little bit about how do you work with clients on purpose and passion?
Absolutely. And this is a topic near and dear to my heart. And based on my story that I was sharing with you, because I had disconnected from my passion for many, many years. And when I first started really focusing on purpose and passion, it felt very daunting to me.
Mm.
You might know some people. I know maybe a handful of people who can very quickly articulate in, one or two sentences, this is my purpose. And then I was like, I can't do that. I mean, how, like, I had that imposter syndrome. How am I going to do this purpose and passion work when
Mm.
I can't articulate that? And that felt so daunting to me. And as I really reflected, and by the way, I am passionate about inspiring reflection and results because so
Mm.
many times we are not reflective. We are just boom, 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 trying to be in
Right.
service to others. And then we disconnect from who we are. So as I reflected on this, I realized that there are three components that really help us identify and lean into and move towards what I like to call our North Star.
Mm.
And that is our GPS. And what
Okay.
that stands for are our gifts, those natural talents and abilities that we have. That's the G. Then we have our P for passion. As
Hmm.
humans, we're good at many things. That doesn't mean we want to be doing all of those
Right.
things. So, what are those activities that energize us? I am a
Mm.
strength based coach, and that's how I like to define strengths. What energizes me, as
Mm.
well as what are my values? What's really
Mm.
important to me? And then finally, yes, where
Mm.
do we like to be in service?
Mm.
Because when we're in service to others, this gives us a great sense of purpose as we, pay it forward to people.
Mm.
So once I have clients identify the G, the P, and the S, then we start to look for activities that integrate one, two, or more of those components.
Okay.
And as we engage in activities that align with our GPS, this lets us know that we are leading a purposeful life
Mm.
without having to put all that pressure, that perfectionism in my
Mm.
case, of having to articulate exactly what my purpose is.
Interesting framework of GPS. I mean, it makes identification of our purpose so easy. I think if you do the exercise. So gifts are the things that we find as our blessings, maybe, or as something that we enjoy, right?
Well, great question. So, with the gifts, this is sort of the starting place of our natural talents.
Hmm.
Doesn't necessarily mean, though, that I enjoy them. So, for
Hmm.
example, I have a wonderful attention to detail. That's just
Okay.
a natural
Hmm.
ability that I have. Does that energize me? No.
Hmm. Hmm.
So if I need to work on a PowerPoint presentation, for example, I will do a terrific job in finding all the little details, making it just right, but don't talk to me after
Yeah.
I've done it.
Yeah.
I'm not going to be very happy or friendly. So that's why we start with the gifts because
Um,
that kind of comes a little obvious to us. Oh yeah, I know I'm pretty good at this. I'm good at that. Da, 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 da. But then when we get into the passion column, now
Hmm.
we look at those gifts and we
Hmm.
start to pull out which are the ones that I get so energized by, I
Hmm.
lose track of time. I could be doing this thing forever. And
Hmm.
that's how we start to get more granular in defining the passion.
Got it. And then in service, we figure out who do you want to be in service of.
Exactly. And that might be professional, that
Hmm.
might be personal. Maybe there's certain causes that are very
Hmm.
meaningful to
Hmm.
you or places you volunteer. So, really, how do we want to be in service? Which communities and groups are we wanting to serve with our passion?
Hmm. Okay. And then kind of then extracting the activity that, or figuring out activities that align with all these three.
Correct. And then also to piggyback on that, a lot of my strength based work with clients also helps them to identify those strengths and then be able to leverage those strengths. So
Hmm.
that also includes understanding what energizes us, understanding what depletes our energy, and
Hmm.
being able to articulate that, which can be extremely impactful in work situations, like
Hmm.
come to me if you want this, I'm your person, as well as, you know what, even though I'm really skilled at this thing, this sucks the life out of me. So
Hmm.
I prefer to minimize
Hmm.
how much I'm engaging in this activity.
Hmm.
So part of this work too is helping people to really identify and leverage their strengths, which is incredibly empowering. And it also leads to better bottom line results, not only for us personally, but also professionally in our organizations that and the people that we serve.
And it really creates, I think, brings in a self awareness for people, identifying who they are and who do they want to be and who do they enjoy to be.
There you go. Absolutely. I'm a big fan of self discovery.
Hmm.
And I like to describe my approach to coaching as really an inside out approach.
Hmm.
So, really, the more we are connected to all of who we are and really to our sage,
Hmm.
then again, we're able to experience much more ease and flow and joy and all the things that we as human beings really desire.
And I like what you said, inside out approach. As coaches, I think we look forward to even those clients who've got that inside out approach so that it becomes easier for us to work with them. Talk to me a little bit about how do you tell somebody if they don't have this inside out approach? How do you help them get there and build that outlook or perspective of inside out approach?
Yeah, that's a great question because we love those clients that already have that desire.
Right. Yeah. Yeah.
So true. Yeah. So sometimes, unfortunately, it's about getting people connected to their pain points.
Hmm.
And that's where that judge and saboteur work is so powerful because many times people don't realize they're running on their autopilot. And when Shirzad created this framework, his Stanford students like to refer to it as our inner Darth Vaders for a Star Wars fan versus our inner Jedi, which is our sage.
Hmm.
And so sometimes it's starting to call out as people are sharing with me some of these patterns and the negative thinking and feeling that I'm hearing. I'll reflect it back to them
Hmm.
and start to open that up a bit and have them share more about what's going on there, what's that experience like, and then really to be able to call out that our judge and saboteurs are just aspects of who we are.
Hmm.
They are not really who we
Hmm.
are at our core.
Hmm.
And the sage who knows really this is who I am is where we're going to experience more of those wonderful qualities I shared earlier. And then really ask them, is that something that you would like to experience more of? So
Hmm.
once we get that buy-in, then there's a lot more room to, there's, by the way, a saboteur assessment they can take. I really enjoy values work. Sometimes I'll use a strength-based assessment.
Hmm.
So from there, we can start really kind of peeling back the layers of the onion and helping people reconnect to who they are. And I really do refer to my clients as the subject matter experts on themselves.
Right.
So, how do you become that subject matter expert on yourself again and really honor yourself so that you feel that you're in integrity with
Hmm.
yourself?
Hmm. And I think so. Assessments, as you spoke about right now, you do a saboteur assessment and strength assessment. Any other assessment that you would like to recommend coaches to start with when they practice?
Wow, I've used many different assessments over the years. When I first started out, I was using Myers-Briggs
Mm,
quite a bit. So that is a foundational tool. Sometimes I'll use the Thomas Kilmann assessment, which is a
mm,
conflict-based assessment. And
mm,
of course, 360-degree feedback. I utilize a variety of approaches and tools there, including quantitative and qualitative, where I
mm.
will facilitate interviews with different raters as well. So those are a few off the top of my head.
Talk to me a little bit more about the saboteur assessments. So, what happens? What are the criteria there? How can one assess themselves?
Yeah, so there is a wonderful assessment. It's very easy, it's very quick, and literally it takes maybe 5 minutes. And you get a quick snapshot
Hmm.
of all your saboteurs. For each of us, we usually have elements of all 9 saboteurs.
Hmm.
What this assessment does is it looks at your top 3 in more detail. And by the way, those might change over time,
Yeah.
depending on your growth, your learning, what's happening in your world. So the report shows you all of your saboteurs, and the length of the line indicates how much you tend to go towards that
Mm,
particular saboteur. And then oftentimes I will facilitate a debrief of that assessment to really help people understand for themselves what the saboteur looks like, feels like. For each of us, it might be very different. Our judge, too, sounds
mm,
and looks different for each of us.
mm,
So to help people get in touch with that, because the first step in this framework is seeing the pattern.
mm,
And that takes a while because we've been on autopilot for so long, because we've
mm.
let our judge and saboteurs be in the driver's seat.
Right.
Another movie reference, if you like The Matrix,
Hmm.
we're plugged into a machine. We don't even know we're plugged into this negativity machine. We just think this is the way it is. It's always doom and gloom. I have to push myself in order to be successful. And when we unplug from that machine and
Hmm.
we realize, wow, I've been on autopilot all this time. I
Hmm.
actually can make a choice of how
Hmm.
I want to experience my life.
Right.
It's an eye opener, but it takes time and it takes practice to
Hmm.
realize how pervasive the thoughts and feelings and the negativity of the judge and saboteurs are on so many areas of our lives.
So we get the report of I mean, so three saboteurs you're saying will have a detailed report, and then there is a reporting done on all the 9 saboteurs in the assessment.
Yes, you just get it. It's a one-page view. It's a nice visual. You'll see the length of the lines on each of the saboteurs. It will give you some more information about your top 3 saboteurs. And like I said, in the coaching arena, that's where we can really start to delve in deeper. Though, anybody that wants to go to positiveintelligence.com. There is an incredible amount of resources there, also white papers. There's even a couple of guided PQ reps there.
Hmm.
So lots of great tools and resources for people that are wanting to delve into this framework. And of course, I'm happy to speak to anyone more about this. My colleague and I actually facilitate an 8-week deep dive, a virtual group coaching program into positive intelligence, where we really go much more in depth into this framework.
And you do it online, or you do it as a
Yeah, it's a very intimate experience. We take 4 or 5 people max at a time. And each week there is an app that is a wonderful app. And on the app, there is a theme each week on a pillar of the framework. There is
Mhm.
an hour-long video from Shirzad, the creator of the framework.
Mhm.
There are also a gym where you have many different guided PQ reps, and you can
Mhm.
actually see how charged your
Hmm.
self command muscle is. And
Hmm.
then once a week, we have a group coaching session together where we're delving deeper into this topic. And there's also a social element where we ask participants once a day on the app to check in with the other participants. How are you doing with this? Where are your successes? Where might you be struggling? And we also offer a 30-minute individual coaching session as part of this program as well.
Wow. So it's a whole package, right? And it's all available online with you.
Very impactful, and again, simple and impactful. And that's one of the
Hmm.
things I love about this, because, as coaches, We know so many different frameworks, but this research really consolidates positive intelligence, excuse me,
Hmm.
positive psychology, neuroscience, mindfulness,
Hmm.
also performance science,
Hmm.
all in one framework.
And tell me then, with the assessment and the gym and the reps, with all of that, I think the idea really is about building strengths in people and resilience, right? Yeah. So talk to me about how this framework really helps people to build strength.
And just to clarify, you said strength and resilience?
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So again, I think where the strength comes in is really starting to embrace and love ourselves. How
Mm.
do we fall in love with ourselves? And it took me quite a while to using this practice. I've been using this framework now for about 3 years. And at some point, I would start to hear a voice in my head, which really surprised me, which was, Rachel, that was amazing.
Mm.
Rachel, I love you. I believe in you. I did not hear that voice before. I like
Mm.
to call my judge Sally the critical stage mother. And
Mm-hmm.
Sally does not use that kind of language. So
Mm.
when I first started even hearing a glimpse of some of this positive messaging,
Mm.
so the strength is learning again to reconnect to our sage, reconnect to these beautiful gifts that we have.
Mm.
And who are we as human beings? We're not human doings. It's not all about achievement and accomplishment. How can
Mm.
we love ourselves just for our beautiful essence?
Mm.
And as we do that, we are building strength. We're in integrity with ourselves. And it allows us to show up as who we really want to be in the world, which of course helps with our resilience as well when we have challenging times and when we're
Mm.
struggling. And to know there's a blue sky still out there. How can I get back to my blue sky? It hasn't gone anywhere. I
Mm.
just need to find my way back to it
Right.
and to trust in ourselves that we're able to get through those darker times by really leaning into our sage.
Mm. So really starting to relive that hopefulness in you.
Hope, wonder,
Yeah.
whatever those qualities are that really
Mm.
make up who you are at your core.
First, of course, identifying your core and then really starting to relive that.
Exactly.
Wonderful. Rachel, if anybody wants to get in touch with you around, to understand more about what you do and your work and would like to learn from you, how do they get in touch with you?
Absolutely. Well, my website is
Mm-hmm.
www.steppingintomore.com, which
Mm-hmm.
is, of course, the name of my company and book. And you can also find me on LinkedIn. And if you'd like to hear any of my music, you could put in Stepping Into More or my name on Spotify or Apple Music, and you can find me there as well. And also on YouTube.
Awesome. So we're going to put the links of these resources and these ways to connect with you in our description section of our YouTube and Spotify handles. And thank you, Rachel. What a wonderful learning experience speaking to you today.
Well, thank you. It's such a pleasure to have this opportunity and to be able to share this impactful information with others to get the word out.
Yeah, indeed, impactful information it is. Thank you, Rachel, once again, and looking forward to connecting
Thank
again.
you.
Thank you. All right. So it's 9:03. My team is waiting to see if there's anything that they need to do. Great. I mean, what a lovely work, Rachel, around positive intelligence. And I think I would like to look at those resources that you've mentioned. And once I know more, I think we'll do a more detailed version of understanding of what it is for our audience, I think.
That would be fantastic. And FYI, Horace, if there my colleague and I are very much wanting to get this work into especially the corporate arena.
Hmm.
So if you know of organizations, please, we welcome all referrals. We also offer a referral fee. And if people that are in organizations bring us in, we will have that person participate for free in the program.
Okay.
So we're really looking to get the word out there.
And it's only the the this program that you're talking about, right? Positive psychology. It's not positive
It's
questions, right?
actually called mental fitness, how to cultivate mental fitness by building your positive intelligence.
Wow. So okay. So and how much is the cost of the program? What's the cost?
Yes, well, in an organization, there is a different fee structure, but for individuals, Positive Intelligence just changed their price. So I have to look exactly at my our new price list, but it's around 650, somewhere around that price range. I have to look at my exact numbers. We were just brainstorming on this.
Sure. So send me the information, send me whatever
Sure.
brochure or you have, and then we should look at how can we really, and even we've got a community of coaches. We can even, offer this to them because it is an advanced work. After you've learned coaching, they can look at these options. I mean, to upgrade. And is it ICF accredited, Rachel?
It is, and in full transparency, Horace, there is an option through Positive Intelligence directly where coaches can go through a 6 week version of this program for
Mm-hmm.
free. I will say, because I have gone through that program, this is their marketing, right? This is the way they bring coaches in. My colleague and I have facilitated our version of an 8 week program with coaches,
Okay.
and the coaches told us how powerful it was to be in that setting versus more of like this large kind of group offering.
Mm-hmm.
A, because my colleague and I, Pamela, and I have created our own tools that we share and resources that we share. And it's a much more intimate setting
Hmm.
where they can really delve deeper. And we offer the free coaching session as well. So the coaches found a tremendous value, even though you could just go to Positive Intelligence directly and take a shorter version of this program for free.
All right. All right. So do share whatever information is useful for us to really review and then look at what can we partner together with. Yeah.
Thank you. I so appreciate your interest and the opportunity, Harris. It was really lovely getting to know you.
Thank you, Rachel. It was lovely to talk to you today. Thank you.
Wonderful. And so then, just to remind me, once you guys are done editing, you said that you'll be sending that for me to take a look at.
And it will take
Fantastic.
about a month's time. Yeah. In a month's time, you will hear it from us. Yeah.
Okay, thanks for that heads up.
Mm.
And then, of course, once I have that, the actual final version, I'd be delighted to share it with my network as well.
Right.
So
Right.
let me know.
Yeah. Thank you, Rachel. Thank you for now.
Thank you.
Bye bye.
Wishing you all the best. Enjoy your evening. I hope you get to sleep.
Yeah. Thank you. Bye.
Bye for now.